Microsoft warns about OAuth in the cloud.
Hey, Kim, I hear Microsoft has some warnings out on OAuth attacks.
Yes, George. OAuth, the open authorization that is used on the back end, is a standard for authorization for the framework of token-based authorization on the internet. Well, they found that many malicious actors are out there pushing phishing emails, targeting consumers of Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, GitHub, whatever it may be, even Microsoft, because it uses the Microsoft Active Directory on the back end. So they might be targeting using the actual legitimate domains. So they sign up using say azure.com or cloudapp.azure.net or whatever it may be to target users, facebook.com, google.com. So the users normally will just click. If they get something in the email, they'll click because, you know, normally they're clickbait, and they'll click on these phishing emails, and it will take all of their credentials, and on the back end they can get into their cloud resources, anything that they have out in the cloud. It started, researchers found this in back in, I think, November, December time. And now with the apps in OAuth 2.0, they're focusing more on this vulnerability. Now that people are working from home, what you should do and what Microsoft is requesting that users do is generally, like you're supposed to, hover over these particular, watch the domains that are coming into your email, watch those domains, hover over the links to know that they're actually, legitimate links. If they're not, don't click on them. So it's a lot that are going through conventional email-based phishing. So as the remote working continues, I'd say that, with Zoom, WebEx Teams, Microsoft Teams, all of the different applications that we're using from home, that people will be more mindful of the phishing attacks and how OAuth is being used to take their credentials and take over their whole cloud environment.
I think it's easy to become a victim of just clicking through on emails, especially lately, because there's so many alerts you get all the time from a variety of places. Check this out, click on this, da da da, and even legitimate things that you have to do. And now, many of them do take you to authentications in the cloud. And for very well-themed phishing pages, it can be really difficult to tell the difference between, what's real or what's fake, because now you're not just looking for your company name, or, you're kind of like, okay, this could be Azure, or this could be AWS, or I'm authenticating through Facebook. So there's a lot where you could get really easily, I guess, tricked. And you have to be super vigilant these days more than ever, because we are, like you said, Kim, working all from home, and everything looks kind of strange. I think it's also important to point out for organizations, when you are putting your authentication or authorization out there into the cloud, make sure you retain good logging around who is authenticating into your platform, where are they coming from, how many failures there are, and things like that. Because if you don't do that, you're gonna basically lose an entire, basically you're gonna lose a lot of visibility into what's happening with authentications against these various platforms. For example, traditionally, if your Active Directory or your authentication platform was within your network, you probably had a lot of logging around that to make sure there's no like brute forcing. But now you just put that whole piece out there on the internet. And if anyone is brute forcing that mechanism and you're not collecting logs around that by working with that cloud provider, you're going to be a little bit blind. Well, really, really blind to some of the attacks that are going on.
Right, exactly. And and another thing is to use multi-factor authentication. Whereas, when you click and it takes you to this website, it will call your home for you to log back in there, or that kind of thing, or send a text to your phone or for authentication or whatever it may be.
Well, the only thing I was going to say is I actually recently started using authenticator apps in as many places as would allow it, just even less rely on my phone number or something like that. And so all the authentications happen through this two-factor, the second factor being the app that, authenticates me into the application.
And I realized the other day that Microsoft does actually call you as well as part of their second factor. It's an interesting second factor. And like you, I have plans on using an authenticator app now just because from a security standpoint, with SIM swapping, we want nothing to do with trying to get away from relying on SMS and calling. And just the fact of having to pick up the phone to log in and listen to a robot and, have this process, could be something that would be annoying, but it's still secure. I do recommend the authenticator as well. Microsoft has wrapped themselves up in so much of enterprise products. I mean, email, right, Office Docs, OneNote, everybody at some point is touching one of those, and it's so easy to just, oh, okay, here's that link. Let me just click log into my Azure or whichever, and boom, you just gave them your access to the. So it's a very interesting angle, and using Microsoft is pretty slick because there's so much.
You bring up a valid point about too much data being concentrated in one place, and it makes a really juicy target. Especially as probably it's fair to say that like pretty much all of us are now associated with all these major companies, and we have so much data out there that, could be used for good, data analytics, giving you what you need when you need it, but at the same time is a target for the bad guys to know more about you and what maybe they could do to trick you. Let's keep an eye on all these phishing pages, and let's not be doomed, even though we get tons of alerts asking us all to click on something and log in, officially. I guess the second lesson is make sure as you deploy these solutions into the cloud for authentication, you really have a good handle on how that gets logged, where that gets logged, and how you should be analyzing those logs for suspicious activity or authentications coming from locations you don't anticipate.